Here we go. Welcome back, everyone. We have a special guest with us tonight. We've got Simon Osborn joining us for a chat about his career, which he played for Crystal Palace, Reading, Wolves, Walsall, Gillingham, amongst others. So we're going to have a bit of a chat about Simon's career, work our way through when he started all the way up to what he's doing now. Joined by Greg and Matty as well to go through it. So they'll be chiming in with a few questions along the way. But yeah, just to start us off, so we'll go through. I've got a couple of just a quick questions just to sort of get to know you a bit better. So first one, I think you've told us this off air anyways. Who was your childhood hero?
Yeah, as we were talking about earlier on, obviously midfield player, played there. My childhood hero was Glenn Hoddle. So just loved the way he played. That sort of that Tottenham team at the time was quite a good team, and I even went to the point at one point I tried to perm my hair to look like Glenn. Didn't work. the old Boots £4.50 perm kit didn't quite work out quite as much. Couldn't get anything better Danny Croydon. There was no way I was going to salon for a 15 quid bit of perm. So the 450 bit of stuff never quite took. More like a little bit of a kink than a perm. But no, just even sort of Glenn Hoddle, Brian Robson's the midfield players of that area. But Tottenham, that was the team I watched because of him. But Palace being sort of my local club, that was another club that I obviously followed. But he was a massive idol to me. And it, you know, talking about it now, and you sort of look at these players that we have, these flair players and whatever, he was probably way ahead of his time. And in a different country, I think we'd have built a team around him, but we never did. So that's unfortunate. But you know, I managed to play against him a couple of times when he was at Swindon and Chelsea. So to play against him as well was brilliant.
Well, was it at Swindon? He was playing at the back for a little bit as well, wasn't he?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's right.
Yeah, he was a sweeper. He just literally played a sweep, honestly. He had the biggest cigar on ever. And he was so two-footed, and he could just drop a ball wherever he wanted. I mean, I think I played against him when I was quite young in the reserve game. And I think it was at Swindon. And he nutmegged the player from about 10 yards. It was ridiculous. He just nutmegged him. He just hit his pass and nutmegged the player. And he meant it. And you're just looking at him going, oh, my God, this bloke was special.
Not bad.
Special. I mean, like I said, he was obviously my idol. So you play against him. Sort of, I managed to play against a few, obviously, because I know I don't show my age, but that's Botox. And Brian Robson, Gascoigne. I was fortunate to come against players as I was coming through to play against them in my early part of my career. So that was you know, for me, that's brilliant.
Yeah, that's an honour, mate. Well, the next one was, which team did you support as well?
I didn't really support anybody. I followed Palace, obviously, because they was local to me. Obviously, I was brought up in Croydon. It was my local club. I was sort of in and out of the system for my own reasons, really. There was a lot of football and cricket and that being played at the time, so I sort of played everything. So Palace was the club. I played for Croydon Schools. Bob White, who was sort of involved at Croydon, took me into Palace. So I was training at Palace, playing for Palace. But again, these were the days when you sort of played every sport possible under the sun. Cricket and football were different seasons, so I played both. And a couple of times there were so many games of football at the time, I sort of stayed away from the academy side of it until it came to sort of 15, and then went to the Palace from there. So I'd always followed them because they're local, because you come across sort of people that are always going there, your friends are Palace fans and so on and so forth. That was kind of them and Tottenham, really.
Oh, fair play, mate. What's your worst habit?
My worst habit, God,
yeah.
Even snoring, my missus will say at the moment, I think. I blame that on a broken nose, but that's got nothing to do with it. I would probably say my snoring at the moment is my worst habit, or showing my kids my top 10 goals.
Nothing wrong with that, mate. I'm still doing that.
I always took all of my, my nephews and nieces and whatever else. I always take them. I said, listen, I'll get the kids to sleep. Don't worry about that. I'll tell you about my top 10. Just talk you through my top 10 goals. Always throw the first one out for scoring in the first ever Premier League day. That puts them straight off.
Brilliant. What's your biggest fear?
My biggest fear? I'm not a big fan of boats, would you believe? Not a big fan. I don't think it's a fear. I just don't like them. It's funny. There was a picture came up on Twitter. Mark Bright put something on, obviously from Palace. We were back in, this was just after the FA Cup 1990. We went to Jamaica. We went on a tour in the Caribbean.
I see the picture that he put up of you, yeah.
So one of the days, someone's had a bright idea. Let's go deep sea fishing, blah blah blah, whatever it is. So anyway, got on the boat. I'm thinking, can't. I'm a young lad. I'm 18, so I've got to go because I've got to carry the beers and look after them, basically. We got on this boat and it just kept going. It didn't stop, and it's just going out to catch this marlin. Honestly, within about 20 minutes, I'm feeling sick. There's about 4 or 5 others. So we just pulled in and just went into Ochereas and walked the falls. Miles better than fishing. I've never liked boats. It's just not. It's just never something that's been good to me. I think it's probably more that it just makes me feel sick.
Yeah. I can get that. Yeah, 100%. And last one, Marmite. Love it or hate it?
Love it.
Yes. Get in.
Absolute.
See, I've done a couple of podcasts and called myself Marmite because you either love me or hate me. Most fans of my own team hated me. Most fans for the opposing team loved me. So it was all right.
We're all cheering you on.
Osborn's on the ball. That's a touch. He'll kick it out of play. Sweet.
You're fuming, Greg. All these guests keep loving Marmite, mate.
I know. Maybe I'm a wrong one.
Are you a hater?
Yeah, you are.
I'm not a fan.
No.
No.
The peanut butter and Marmite combo make you feel ultra sick.
No, peanut butter's good.
They've started mixing the two now, haven't they?
It's phenomenal, mate.
Yeah, I had it earlier. Decent.
Yeah, can't get enough of the stuff.
Anyway.
And yeah, so obviously you started your career at your local team then, Crystal Palace. How did it sort of come about that you got signed up by Palace, mate?
As I said just previously, I was Croydon boy playing for Croydon and Surrey schools, and Bob White at the time was involved at Palace, and he was my district coach. So I kind of went from there, went into Palace, played through, like I said, dropped in and out, and then it got to the 15, and I was seriously thinking, as a lot of kids do at the time, I want to be a footballer. Managed to stay in the system there, and then got offered a YTS. So basically finished my exams at school in, I think it was the end of May, early June, and then literally started at Palace as a YTS apprentice, £27.88 a week, back at the old Mitcham training ground in 1988. 16-year-old apprentice, yeah. So went straight into that, and that was it. Straight into full-time football, probably 9.5 stone wringing wet, into the big wide world of training every day, which was a massive wake-up call, but an absolutely brilliant experience to be able to sort of train every day, learn from the guys that were there at the time, and it stood me in good stead, to be honest with you. And then I was fortunate enough to obviously play all the way through to I retired at 35, so really lucky, really.
Yeah, exactly. Well, like we were saying about a couple of people that we know with injuries, mate, it's some people are never that lucky, so you had a good career. Whose boots was you cleaning at Palace?
Ian Evans at one point, Glenn Pennyfather, Dave Maddens. You sort of flitted around. The first year I had Ian Evans and a couple of others, and then the second year I was fortunate enough that they gave me a title, sort of head apprentice. Obviously I was captain, Gareth was captain the year before. I took over the captaincy of the youth team, and they gave me a sort of a role, head AP. Basically, if anything went wrong, I got it. If it was all okay, I was great. I think I got an extra £5 a week from that, actually, from doing that. And then, so I didn't actually do boots on the second year. I had to fill in if somebody wasn't in or they was ill. So I was kind of lucky. But like I said, you had people like Stan Turnant, and that was then around. So I'd have to make sure the balls, the bibs, all the kit was done, everything was out where it's supposed to be, the pitches were set up right. All the jobs were done at the end of the day. If they weren't, I got basically coated.
What was Stan like? Because I've heard some great stories about him from a few ex-pros and that. He was a bit of a hothead, wasn't he, Stan?
Stan was a real hothead, really good football bloke, knew his onions, would train in a pair of high-tech white trainers, would you believe? So
proper old school.
Proper old school high-tech. Right now there'll be like people who think they're really cool. But he'd go out and the pitch would be absolutely... Mitcham was not the best training ground in the world. Lots of people would tell you that. And he'd go out in his pair of white high-techs, in his northern tones, and if something weren't right, you'd just get the big Ozzy from the far pitch, and it's oh god, here we go again. But he was honestly a really good fella. Knew his football. Bumped into him a few times, obviously down the road. But yeah, he again, we were really. I can say I was really lucky at that time in my early career. From people like obviously Steve Coppell was the manager. You had Ian Brantford was there, Alan Smith, Stan Turnan, Steve Harrison. There were some really good coaches there that that for the young guys, it was brilliant.
Yeah, you can see why they were so successful back then, mate, with all them sort of names about the club.
Yeah, well, you had all them, but then you had some really good pros as well, which always is a good mix. You know, we had a really good, when you look back now, it's interesting. You sort of don't think about it at the time, but now looking back, the young guys that we had there, myself, Gareth, Stan, Chris Coleman, Chris Armstrong, you know, the list is sort of endless. There's a hell of a lot of young Bobby Bowery, you know, Simon Roger. You could keep reading them off. We were really, really fortunate at that time that it was a real hotbed, a lot of local talent with some good coaching, and different probably to what you'd get now, but it all was part of it. You know, you get stuck up the army barracks, and that was part of your training, and then you'd have to go and see Morris, who was the groundsman, and you'd have to do his chores if you wanted something, or clean the balls, or get sent out into the bushes because we're 3 balls short, and you had to find that, otherwise it come out the wages and all that sort of stuff. So it was brilliant. Honestly, it was a brilliant grounding. You had to earn the respect of your fellow pros at that particular time, but once you'd done that, you couldn't rest on your laurels, but at least you knew you could try and compete with them.
Yeah, 100%, mate. Like you said, you mentioned a few of the names there. In your time at Palace, some of the big names that were at the club, like people probably of our generation probably won't even realise some of these names that were at Palace at the time. You like seeing,
I might just.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, you like to like Nigel Martin, Gareth Southgate, Ian Wright, Mark Bright, Stan Collymore, John Solarco. There's some top players there. You can see why, because in your time there, did you finish third in the Premier League as such? What it was, First Division then, was it?
Yeah, it was the old First Division. We finished third. There was a possibility we could get into Europe at that time because Liverpool been banned.
Yeah.
And there was a possibility we could get in there. So we finished third. I think our final game of the season at home, I think we beat Man U 3-0. I managed to make a few appearances that season, but I was in and around the squad. And like you said, the amount of players there, good, solid, dependable players, was great for us young guys coming through, because we learnt off them every day. They wouldn't take, you had to earn that respect. But as I said to you before, if you didn't do something or they felt you were doing it wrong, there were no shies. You had to stand your ground. You had to stick up to it. You had to have a bit about you. They'd test you, which is fine, because they obviously want to rely on you if it's in a pressure situation. So it was tough. It was tough love. I mean, I watched an interview with Andy Woodman the other day that he'd done with another podcast that we won't mention because we're not allowed to under obviously laws. And I kind of forgot about a lot of the stuff and a lot of the things that happened. You kind of don't realise it until you sort of start reminiscing about what you did and the players you played with. For me, as I said, it stood me in great stead.
Brilliant. Go on, Matty. You had something to come in with there, mate?
I mean, obviously, you've just reeled off some hell of a names in a short sequence there. It's quite a lot for my brain to take in. But being an Arsenal fan myself, I have to ask the question, Ian Wright, what's he like?
Mad.
Yeah.
Nah, he was. He'd come in from non-league. He was an absolute bundle of energy. Obviously, he'd felt like he'd been given this key, from working on building sites, playing for Greenwich Borough, coming into the big wide world of football, and then him and Mark just hit it off.
Yeah.
Ian was brilliant, hot-headed, unbelievable ability, could score goals that you wouldn't believe, but also get the tap-ins.
Yeah.
Electric pace, both feet. Mark was the ultimate pro. Mark Bright was the ultimate pro. Work at his game. Good, solid, dependable centre forward. Get hold of the ball, make good runs, and they just hit it off. But, Wright could drive people mad. Like, I think it was, I can't remember who it was, he'd be doing a shooting session. If someone didn't set in the ball right, he'd smash it over the fence and it'd be in the bushes, just because he wanted that. And he'd practice his celebrations and all sorts of stuff like that. But that's just how he was. If he didn't score and Mark scored, you could see Ian was disappointed. He was that single-minded that he wanted to get to the very top. And once he got the opportunity, you watch him in training, he'd do stuff, and he wouldn't. I don't know if he knew how to do it sometimes. I think it was just natural.
Yeah. Frightening ability he had.
I mean, like I said, you don't go on and score that amount of goals for Arsenal. You don't play for England and whatever else it is. And like I said, I've talked to people about it, and I had what I'd consider a good career, but my level was probably the Championship, and that's just me being blatantly honest. I played in the Premiership, but I kind of toyed with it. It wasn't really. I never really felt that I was a Premiership player, and that's the difference between me being a Championship player to a Premiership player, and then being a Premiership player to an international or a top Premiership player. Yeah. You can definitely see the differences, and there's certain people that you knew, like Jeff Thomas and people like that went on to do it. Obviously, what I did was great, but there's that little fine margins of.
Do you think that was something from a dedication aspect, or could you have worked at your game harder, or did you just think you just didn't belong at that level?
I think it was just the timings, if I'm honest with you. No, I worked on my game. I was fit. I could play. I could pass. Not the quickest in the world, but at that particular time, it was very much a 4-4-2 formation, box to box. I'm not saying I couldn't go box to box, but if I'm going up against certain other people, for instance, like a Jeff Thomas who arrives in the box, who's got 4 inches on me, who's going to head balls. I think at that particular time, in that sort of early 90s, through to that kind of was the thing. Now, maybe it might suit me a little bit more, potentially. I don't know. But it certainly wasn't down to lack of effort. I just think that those fine margins from athleticism, just what people were expecting in those Premiership teams, I think it just slightly changed. And that's not the only reason. There's little bits of luck. Could have gone into a team that played slightly differently. But I think that's just how it was, really. Like I said, I did sign back there. I'd won one season at Reading and went back into the Premiership with QPR, but we'll probably get onto that. That didn't quite work out for whatever reasons. But I just didn't feel when I was in there, I couldn't do what I could do in the Championship.
Yeah, understood. Yeah, you felt more comfortable at that level than you did.
Yeah, definitely. I felt I was chasing it more in the Premiership and didn't feel I could influence the game like I did in that. For certain reasons, whatever it was, and it just didn't feel that way.
Very honest of you to say.
Yeah, 100%. Go on, Greg.
I was just, when you came inside to the first team, who was in your way, sort of thing, like from actually getting. I know you've obviously just explained like what you thought about yourself, but who was in your way directly?
Jeff Thomas and Andy Gray were the midfield two. At that particular time, and as I was coming through, I'd managed to sneak a couple of appearances sort of on the right side of midfield. John Slarker might have been injured or someone else, but basically my direct competition would have been Jeff, Andy, Alan Pardew, Glenn when he was there, Glenn Pennyfather, Dave Madden. They were the sort of ones in front of me, and then obviously myself and Gareth came in, who both played in midfield at the time. So I'd come in that first year, which was the old First Division. I'd managed a couple of games in that. Then the following season in the Premiership, I managed to. Jeff was having a few. I think they were trying to sell, or Blackburn were trying to buy Jeff at the time, and I managed to get in the team and play quite a few games that season alongside Andy Gray and people like that. So they were the sort of main ones.
Nice. And then I wanted to ask actually, because like you was on the fringes being a young player at the time, but when they got to the FA Cup final, did you travel with the squad? Did you get a chance to go, or?
No, I travelled with them on all the stuff before, so I'd been involved all through the run because again it was a big sort of superstition thing. Steve Coppell was really superstitious about stuff, and I think we won the 3rd or the 4th round, and we'd been to Tenerife the week before, just on a bit of a trip, bit of warm weather training, whatever it was, basically piss up really. And we'd won. So before every round of the FA Cup, we basically went away. We played on the Saturday in the league, literally got straight to the airport and went straight to Tenerife, or went away. So we had the Saturday night, Sunday, Monday, came back either the Tuesday or the Wednesday, then played the cup game the following week, and it went all the way through to the final. So I'd been in and around the squad, but that was just sort of travelling stuff. And then when it got to the final, I didn't travel. I think it was only 2 subs at the time, 3 subs at the time. But we all the pros, I'd signed pro that year. All the pros got, the old Prince of World checks suit and a dodgy pair of sunglasses from someone that gave us that come down the training ground to take a few photographs. And I was trying to nick as much stuff as I possibly could to stick in the old back pockets if I could sell it down at the old Addo market. But we all got involved in that, but didn't all travel to the main game where the sort of squad went off to the hotel the sort of day before, I think it was, and then travelled to the game, and we all sort of travelled afterwards.
Nice. Go on, Greg.
Yeah, just touching on that final. So back then they were 2 legs, weren't they? And obviously it went to the second leg. And what was it like after that first leg, back at like training and whatnot? Did you like as a team believe that you could go on and win it?
Was that the final, Greg?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, the final went to a replay, if you remember, because
A replay, yeah. Sorry, not 2 legs. It replay.
Yeah, no, I think it was a strange one because of all that what happened. Obviously, Ian coming off the bench doing what he did, it was almost like a loss because we were so close to winning it. And then I think the replay was on the Tuesday night, if I can remember rightly. And then for some reason we pulled out that yellow and black kit for God knows what. And it was a bit of an anticlimax, if I'm honest. The whole sort of replay bit didn't feel anything like the same. The first game, there was only sort of 15,000 allocated, even less than that, tickets to the Palace fans. And then it was sort of a little bit different. So everyone kind of went to go. And it was a strange one because basically just coming to training, tick over, go through a few bits and pieces and then sort of go through it again. But it just didn't have the same feeling. It's not as special, that Tuesday night replay, as it is a sort of Saturday. For me, the FA Cup final day was a day. It was you know, it was a whole day. You know, you'd see the guys on the coach. It'd be all Wembley way, and to be involved in that, although I wasn't with the squad, it was amazing. And then that sort of replay bit was a bit of an anticlimax, if I'm honest.
And did it go back to Wembley?
Yeah, it was back at Wembley. Yeah, but it didn't feel the same. An evening game at Wembley for the FA Cup final, it's not the same. It just doesn't feel the same, if you know what I mean. It's like when they took some of the semi-finals and that to it. It's not.
Yeah.
It doesn't have the same buzz, does it? It's not the same thing.
I've never believed that should have ever been the case for the FA Cup. It's the final should just be played at Wembley and that's it. I don't see why you'd play a semi-final at an iconic ground like that because it takes away the buzz of it, doesn't it? I never agreed with that.
No, I never did. It was a special, it was a special occasion, was it? That's what I said to you. I grew up on that Saturday. The Saturday Wembley bit, everyone buzzing, people walking up Wembley Way, the coaches coming in. I can't remember who it was the commentator at the time talking to him on the coach. And then it sort of went to the semi-finals, both being at Wembley and then the final being here. And it's like, it's not the same for me.
No, I think they've ruined it even more with nowadays with the FA Cup final, it being like a 5 o'clock kickoff and there being other games, normal Premier League games on the same day. Yeah. It doesn't have the same feel as it did when I was growing up watching it. It was, like you said, it was the whole day. You'd watch the players getting on the coach in the morning and you'd see the whole build-up.
Speak outside, scored a winner.
Yeah.
Garden, what do you mates? I'm so I'm scoring the winner. I scored the winner in the FA Cup. But
that's it, yeah. But it's all changed, isn't it? Now it's a shame, really. But following on from that, anyway, the following season weren't the best, and your Palace ended up going back down into what was now the First Division because the Premier League was the old First Division. But then that season back down in the First Division, you got to League Cup semi-final, which you scored in. Yeah, and then won the title that year as well. So what was that like? Sort of, did you sort of feel like that was your coming of age now? You're in the team on a regular basis, and
no, because I left after that. No, it was a strange one. It went well in relation to the whole team. I had a few issues. Obviously, myself and Alan Smith fell out a little bit, so it happens. I felt I should be playing a bit more. I got injured, I think, on the first day of the season. Didn't help. Missed a lot of games and had a bit of a falling out. Kind of was out of the squad and out of the scene for a bit, then came back again. And then the team was doing so well. It was a good young team with a couple of experienced pros in it. And we just got on a run and it went really well. So for the team wise, it was fantastic. Club wise, fantastic. For me, a little bit of mixed emotions, and I just felt at the time that maybe it was going back up to the Premier League. Obviously, I had my moments. My contract was running out, and I just felt it was time for me to maybe go and try something new. I'd been there since a kid, and I felt maybe it's time for me to go and see what else is out there. So I came back to Palace in the pre-season, but ended up leaving and going to Reading the following season after they got promoted. Sad to leave. Don't get me wrong. I've been there a long time, getting into the Premier League, which is obviously where everyone kind of wanted to be at the time. But I just felt I wanted to play. The whole point of being a footballer for me, It's not about money. It's not about this. It's about playing every week. You know, if you can't play on a Saturday, it's kind of a bit of an anticlimax during the week.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Was that when you moved to Reading? Was Mark McGee in charge then?
Yeah, he was. Mark was there then. Obviously, Alan was in charge at Palace. Wanted me to stay. In all fairness, we'd sort of settled our differences towards the end of the season, and he wanted me to stay. But I just felt at that particular time, no. So I came back into pre-season. Reading had shown an interest. Colin Lee had seen me in a testimonial game at the end of the season at Palace. Wanted to take me to Reading. They got in contact. I went across to Reading for a week just to see my fitness and whatever else. And obviously, because I was under the age, it was sorting out a sort of fee. So I still came back to Palace, trained through pre-season, and then left for 90 grand about a week before the season started. So it all worked out in the end for me because I wanted to play. I didn't feel that I was going to play as much at Palace that season. So luckily, the clubs agreed the fee in the end, which was good of them. Not a massive amount of money really for somebody who'd been there some time. So I was grateful for Palace for letting me go for that. And I managed to go over and sign for Mark McGee and Colin Lee over at Reading, who had just been promoted from League Two. League One to Championship as it was.
So this was their first year. Did they come up as champions? Was it?
Yeah. They won the league before under Mark with obviously Jimmy Quinn scored 40 odd goals and they'd come up and were sort of flying high, and then talked to me about what they were doing there, and I went and signed for Reading, which was obviously a great move for me.
Yeah, I bet there was a buzz about the place as well because they're on a high, aren't they, coming up from that?
Yeah, I mean, you sort of got there and there was just a real feel. It was a really good squad, some good players. There was a great togetherness there, and I signed. They signed a guy called Darius Dovcek, Polish international, used to play for Celtic and whatever, great player. And it was just, honestly, I had a great year there. I got injured, unfortunately, for part of it, but that's the year we sort of got to the playoff finals and didn't quite make it, but we should have gone up. But I'm not going to talk about that because it's too bitter.
Well, on that,
mate, yeah, let's remind it again. Yeah,
we've got to talk about it, mate. I mean, I was obviously I looked at the result.
It's a guest there, mate. You know what I mean?
It's all right. Don't worry. I was going to go and get myself another bottle of wine. It's fine.
Pressure's right.
I was just having a look at their team. Like, I was going to ask you about some of their players, really. Like Jason McAteer, Alan Thompson, Owen Coyle, McGinley, Stubbs, and then I noticed on their bench.
Who's this, Bolton?
Yeah. On their bench, England legend Peter Shilton.
Yeah, he was on the bench.
Bloody hell!
Didn't know that.
Yeah.
I think he played against us or came on. I can't remember. We played him in and I think it was a Tuesday night game at Elm Park, which is an old stadium. If people remember Elm Park, it was packed to the rafters. We were flying, and we played Bolton at home and beat them 2-1. And I can't remember if he came on or played. And I think he was 41 at the time.
I was going to say, he must have been 40 or pushing. 40.
Yeah.
I was surprised to see his name.
Yeah, no, he was there. Like I said to you, we finished that season in that championship second. Middlesbrough won the title that year. And I think they had Merson, from what I can remember. They might have done it. I might be a bit early, actually. But they had a really good side, Middlesbrough. We finished second. And that was the year that everything changed. So the Premier League reduced down to 20. So only one went up and one went up in the playoffs.
Is that why it was then?
Yeah, that's the only. But again, you kind of can say it, but everybody knew what was happening, and that's the reason we didn't get promoted automatically. I went into the playoffs, and then we'll talk about it because it's fine. It's not a problem, honestly. No. And,
Yeah, Greg.
Yeah, cheers, Greg. Thanks, mate.
Sorry, mate. This is about you, you know. This is about you.
It's about making me feel better, not worse, is it?
Exactly. It's about making the guests feel welcome, Greg. Not just...
Listen, you were there, mate. A lot more than what some of us got to. So,
and then we started the final. We were 2-0 up, as everybody that watches football at that time knows, and then missed the penalty to go 3 up. And then lo and behold, we end up losing 4-3. Basically, we ran out of steam. We were carrying a few injuries. I had an injury. A couple of people had injuries. Not excuses. It got to, it's testing at Wembley. It's no bigger than anywhere else. It's just, I think, the whole emotion of it. And then they come into their own. When it went to extra time, we were really struggling, and they managed to sneak it 4-3. So really disappointing. Great day in certain things to be able to play at Wembley. To go to that, to lose it is kind of a little bit of a sour taste. But all I can say is that I'm glad that I played at Wembley. It's the only time I played there throughout my whole career. So I managed to do it in a great game. I think it was 65,000, and
Wow.
yeah, it was fantastic.
Go on, Greg. You have something else, mate?
You know what? You just kind of. I was just going to ask you, mate. Obviously, you didn't make it with Palace to there, and I was going to say, was that the first time? And then you've just said that's the only time. So yeah, it's unbelievable achievement to play there, though.
Yeah, I went both times with Palace. I sat on the bench. I was not on the bench. I was 14th man when we played in the Zenith Theatre. When we won the Zenith Theatre against Everton. So I was lucky to go there and actually sit on the bench because I was sort of part of I'd played in the Zenith Theatre that season a couple of times. So I was actually fortunate to be able to sort of sit right there. So I managed to, although I wasn't involved, I managed to sort of sample that. The FA Cup final itself, I wasn't. But then to actually get out there and play, walk on it, do all the bits beforehand, and it was just great. It was just a great place to be able to play at sort of that Wembley at that time. Something I'd never be able to take away from.
The old Wembley as well, which is just amazing as well. Right? So much. The new Wembley is brilliant, but then the tower, the two towers and that is just
special.
Yeah,
New Wembley's too commercial, mate. It's like a fucking office block.
Listen, everything's a tenner though, isn't it? So it's fine.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
Huh?
£10 for beer, £10 for a hot dog, isn't it?
Hot dog, tenner.
Yeah, man.
Tenner, innit? Go for a piss, it's a tenner.
It's a joke, isn't it? It really is.
Worst beer ever. It's flat as.
Yeah.
Ah, they are
Not
taking
getting any life out of that, mate.
not good. Not good.
And like, to be honest, it struck me by surprise. I envisioned you was at Reading longer than you was only there for one season.
Yeah. I signed in the end of July, just before the season started, and left the following June.
You were quite well thought of there, because I've got a few mates that support Reading, and they sort of fond memories of you. And I thought you was there for quite a bit longer, like considering,
No, I only done the season there. Like I said, Joe, it kind of kick-started my career, if I'm honest with you. Again, I'd obviously come through at Palace, bit of a, when you've come through a club, it's kind of, that's on you. I just went to Reading and it just gelled. It just worked. I played really well in the first 20 odd games. I think I had 5 goals in 25. Then unfortunately, New Year's Eve, I got a pretty nasty knee injury that played me up. I came back in March, but it still played me up. So I had another operation at the end of the season then. So it was one of those clubs that I think the timing, the way they'd just come up, the way they were flying, the way they were playing, it just worked. It was just one of those lucky things for me to get into there. And then Mark McGee left at Christmas, went to Leicester. They tried to then buy me. But obviously I then got injured, so nothing happened. And then come the end of the season, we obviously lost in the playoffs, and the club, I think I signed a 2-year contract, if I'm honest with you. So it was not like you'd sign these big 5-year contracts, and I just wanted to go and play. So I signed a 2-year contract. So I think I had a year left, and if you was out of contract, I might have said 1 or 2 things to the chairman, maybe, but that kind of happens.
Was that before the wine or after?
That was that was actually, we did have a row in a nightclub.
Really?
Yeah.
What, you and the chairman did?
We just had words, yeah.
What was he doing in the nightclub?
I love the chairman's clubbing.
Yeah, I love it already.
No, I think this might have been, it could have been, I think probably just after the playoffs. I can't remember if it was just after the playoffs or some way through the season. Yeah, so I think we'd won, like I said, I can't remember where we were. We were amazing away from home that season for whatever reason. We were quite good on counter. We had some pace with Michael Gilks and people like that. Shaq Hislop was amazing that season. And I think we'd won somewhere. It ended up, I'll tell you what, it was close to the end of the season because we had about 10 players out of contract. And I think John Medeski at the time had said something about he'd sell the football club. And all these players were out of contract. And obviously we'd gone somewhere. And I'm not shy to say things somewhere along the line. And I think it was in a nightclub and he'd then come in. He's a big VIP in Reading. And obviously I'd had 1 or 2 lemonades. And and at some point something was said. And I said, well, why are you putting stuff in the paper? Why don't you keep this team together or whatever else? And he said something. We might have had 1 or 2 words about, I think you're talking not very well. And that was it really. So we sort of had that. And then I don't think that had anything to do with it. Come to the end of the season and an offer came in from QPR. And they sold me, but they sold myself, Scott Taylor, Shaq Hislop. We all left at the end of the season. So basically that team that championship side was basically disbanded at the end of the season.
Greg, did you have something, mate?
No, I was just going to ask about Shaka, his lot, mate. I saw some of the players that he played with at Reading and that, and then like Phil Parkinson and Shaka, his lot. I was just going to ask about him, obviously that was like one of his first clubs in England, and then got the big move. Was he that good?
Shaka was brilliant. Shaka that season was amazing. I think the season before he sort of broke in. He'd come from university in America.
Yeah.
This was his sort of second season. The first season he'd sort of come in a little bit shy and then broke into the team. That season in the championship, he was phenomenal. We played at Sunderland away that season. We won 1-0. God knows how. He got their man of the match because he was there. We've never had a goalkeeper play this well, or we've never had anyone else. They gave it to him. He was phenomenal that season. He really was. But he was your typical, West Indian, so laid back. It's man, it's just training. It's just what I do. And he was brilliant. We played, I think it was Charlton. We played it on the telly in the sort of last game. We was in the playoffs, so we knew he was there. And he was like, "Yeah, do you know what, lads? Let's just go out in sunglasses to warm up in." You're like, "What? All right." So we all warmed up in sunglasses. No idea why we did it. Shaka or somebody just mentioned it, so we just did it. Just as a bit of fun. But again, it was just at that time we were doing so well and we all got on so well. Times, listen, I was injured. You had to look after your own players' bar. So we had to stop the bar and we'd serve behind the bar in the players' bar at Elm Park. It was just no airs or graces about it. It might be me and Parky behind the bar because we were injured or suspended. Parky would be suspended, not me, of course. Everybody. And you'd be, we'd stock the bar up with the beers and serve people out the beers of that. And that's just how it was at the time. It was you wash your own kit. No one batted an eye to that. It's just how it was at the time, And
get that now, would you?
Oh God.
No. You listen. Nobody at the time. You just got on with it. It was just you're playing football.
Yeah, that's what being a professional was.
Yeah, it was just it wasn't everywhere, but at the time Reading wasn't a big club. They'd come up. The training ground was at. I think it was the owner's mate, and you just used to take your kit home, wash it, bring it back in the morning and train again. It was a mishmash of kits. I'm sure if we had photos back there, I'd have a Mizuno top on, someone would have something else on. It wouldn't be all the skins and snuds and all that rubbish.
Snuds weren't even invented then, were they?
No idea what they were. I think that was when your nan knitted half a balaclava, when it was a
Oh God. They made a bit of money on you, mate. 1.1 million to QPR. Was it Ray Wilkins in charge there who signed you?
Yeah, it was Ray. Ray signed me there because I'd come across Ray at Palace.
Yeah.
We crossed over. He came into Palace. I was still training there. I got on great with Ray at the time. Obviously, for me again to see someone like that come in, another idol that you sort of watched. Great player, honestly, great player. God rest his soul. And something must have dropped with him because he sort of said, "Oh, you're going." I went, "Yeah, well, I don't feel my time's here. I'm going to go and play football." So it maybe that sort of transcended and something popped into his head. I played well, obviously, at Reading, and then he came in for me, and I went over to QPR. They signed me, obviously, from 90 grand to 1.1. I think Palace had a sell on anyway, but it was a great move for me. What I felt at the time was a great move for me to go and play for QPR in the Premiership. To go and work under Ray, a midfield player. I thought it was the perfect thing for me to do right at the time. It didn't work out. Maybe a bit of me, maybe a bit of them. I certainly forced the move at the end of it, but you have to do it sometimes. But it just didn't quite work. It didn't feel right. From what I'd gone through at Reading all that season before, I went into QPR and it didn't feel quite right. Good side, done really well. I think we'd finished 10th the season before in the Premier League, lost Les Ferdinand, but there's some really good players there at the time. Alan McDonald, again, God rest his soul, Dave Bardsley, Trevor Sinclair, Kevin Gallen. They were, Ian Holloway, Simon Barker, Ray was still playing. It was a good Danny Maddox. It was a real good team at that time. But again, for whatever reason, I had a knee injury when I went there. I was recovering from the knee injury, so I was probably a week behind everybody else. They knew that, which was fine. We'd gone to Italy, so all good. Just never really hit it off there. I think I played 15 games in total, and I didn't enjoy it.
Yeah,
didn't enjoy it. trained, kept. It was great because the guys that were around me were that sort of similar age, which was good. But just didn't enjoy the football, didn't enjoy it there particularly. And then when the opportunity arose later in that season, I think they were glad to get rid of me, and I was glad to move on basically. But yeah, like I said, I had a little bit of a fallout with Ray, which is nigh on impossible to do because he's known as Ariel, white and white. But but that is absolutely true. He is the most genuine man, and what a good footballer as well. Even at that age, I think he was 38 at the time. But
was he player manager then?
Yeah, he was player manager and still playing. But honestly, what a footballer!
Still at it.
You could just tell. When you see somebody that you can just watch them instantly and go, that's what I'm saying. So there's that difference. There's that difference between it, and whether I'd kind of gone in there and gone, actually, this is not quite what I expected it to be, or whatever it was, I don't know. I didn't play. I'd played centre midfield at QPR all that season. I've gone into QPR. I was playing left side of a 3, and Ray was playing, and I felt that was my position. And again, maybe that was a little bit of animosity on my part, maybe a bit of youth as well at that particular time, because I'd had such a good season before. Maybe if I'd been a bit more patient, I don't know. That may well have changed, but hindsight's a wonderful thing, and we can't bottle it. And at some point, I wasn't playing enough. From playing 35 games, I think, the season before, even with the injury, I was flitting in and out. I wasn't even on the bench a couple of times, and I just didn't enjoy it. So for me, the ultimate thing is to play football wherever it be. So luckily, Mark McGee then came in for me when he went to Wolves, and my QPR career was cut short.
Yeah, go on, Matt.
Yeah, I was just going to say that must be very challenging, knowing you've made that move. Reading obviously made a bit of money on you for the move. You've gone there. Obviously, it's kind of a local club. Well, it's in and around. You must have been pretty gutted, really, that it didn't work out. Did you know pretty early on in the sort of spell there that it wasn't going to work out?
No, I didn't see. I didn't see that it was going to be like that. The pre-season was brilliant. I felt that I'd gone from Reading. I felt I'd gone up a level because QPR, Ray was there, had that Italian mentality as well, very well organised. Everything was done really well. The training, we'd gone to Italy on a camp. They looked after me in regard to my knee. They knew I was a little bit behind people. So it was great for me to be able to get the treatment and get up to speed to where I was. It's just when the sort of actual season started, I felt I'd done okay when I got back in pre-season. I felt I was pushing. Didn't make the first team, okay, or the first game, I should say, which is always a disappointment, but felt no problem. And, keep going. And then the times when I'd done well and felt like I'd been, had the opportunity to be in it, I'd be on the bench or the following week I'd be out the squad, and it was like I couldn't quite get my head around it again. And I think obviously being young as well, it doesn't help. You kind of get a little bit reactive at times, and
fly off the handle a bit.
Yeah, probably a little bit, and probably didn't go about certain things. Probably I did force the move. I'm not going to lie. I'd had enough and tried to get out of it. And I think I might have coated Ray in the sun at one point after a game when I hadn't played, and might have had a couple of lemonades after the game. Got a bit excited. But again, that was just a bit of frustration, really. I think because I just wanted to play. I didn't want to sit up in the stand and sit up there, especially being injured the season before. It was just frustrating for me. So
yeah, you must have felt you had something to prove to yourself as well, being injured for that period of time, getting yourself fit, getting back in, and then obviously it didn't quite work out. Yeah,
all those things come into it. I think nowadays you'd probably, and I was lucky. I've got a good family around me, good people, but sometimes we're a bit peak-headed, all of us, and men especially, aren't we? We don't listen to everybody else, and at that particular time, I just wanted to play football. I was at what I felt I was at the peak of my career at the time. I'd played, and I just want to play. And you get frustrated. You get to a Saturday, sit on the bench, not come on, and then go away, do what you got to do during the week, feel like you're training really well, and then just get nothing in the end of it. And in the end, it's like, no, I can't do this. I need to go and play football. Yeah, I need to play football, and that's what I did.
Fair play to you, mate. Greg, did you have something there?
Just again, I know you mentioned a few of them players, mate, that was there at the time at QPR. There's a few that Mark Haitley, I saw. What was he like? Because I mean, he was a brute, wasn't he? He was just
great striker, man.
So big in that. And then there was a couple of others as well. Quasi, Nigel, Impey, Rufus Brevitt. just some of the ones that he didn't mention. But Trevor Sinclair as well. I just wanted to talk about him. Like, how good was he?
What a player.
Was you there when he scored that overhead kick?
No, I'd left by then.
Oh.
I remember that.
Mark Haley was a real funny one because Ray obviously knew him from Rangers and brought him down.
Yeah.
And he was like I said, a good player, but his body was almost broken in some respects. Come to not his, just how he played. Come to a Friday, he didn't train. His thing was he didn't want to train. He wanted to be hungry for a Saturday. So we'd literally have a little wander around, little jog and whatever. That was just him, just because of what they'd done in Italy and whatever else. So that was his thing, which was fine. But he was struggling a little bit with injuries. But then something like you say, Andrew Impey, great guy. I'll tell you a funny story about that in a minute. There was all there. Trevor was a really good player. You could tell, Trevor had something special even at that time, like Andrew, internationals. And I think I didn't do myself any favours. We was working in one of the training sessions anyway. So I think we were doing 40 metre, 60 metre, and 80 metre sprints at the time. So anyway, obviously they got their list out and whoever it was. I think it was the assistant at the time. His name's gone out there. Frank Sibley was the assistant at the time. So he's calling out the old first. You're thinking 60 metre sprints. I'm thinking no problem at all. I know what group I'm in. So anyway, he's called the old first names out: Danny Maddox, Trevor Sinclair, Andrew Impey, and I'm thinking, cool, they're all road runners. That lot, they're rapid. He'd only put me in the second group with another lot of whippets. And I'm not blessed with pace. Honestly, I'm not blessed with pace. Speed of mind, but that's about it. So as he's sort of named the second group, I've stuck my hand up and gone, right, just quickly, mate, I think you put me in the wrong group. I said, this is like Premier League. I said, I'm down in the 4th division. Stick me down there, mate, with the runners with you. So I don't know if that went down so well. I'm not so sure. But I certainly wasn't going to race against people like Andrew Impey and that because they were quick. Yeah. At that time, I said, no, 20 metres, I'll be 20 metres and they're finished. So probably didn't help, but couldn't help myself. Couldn't get too embarrassed. But yeah, they were good. They were good guys. I just didn't like it. I'm all for one that if you're not enjoying something or it's not enjoyable to do it, whatever you do, don't do it. And at that time, it wasn't that I wasn't going to do football. I just wasn't going to do that football club. And I wanted to enjoy my football. I want to go into work. I love training. I love football. I always saw it as a hobby that I got paid for. It wasn't a job. It was not by no means a job. And if I wasn't enjoying my training and coming out of there with a smile on my face, you have tough times, you're injured, whatever else. But if I wasn't doing that, there's no point in me doing it. Not at that football club. Yeah,
no doubt. And then, so when you rejoined with Mark McGee over at Wolves, you obviously spent the majority of your career at Wolves. That's where you played your most football. Was it your second season there or first season when you got to the playoffs? And then
second season, I signed there in the Christmas. I signed there, and again, you get your list up now, Greggy boy, because you're on the old internet. I can see you on that.
No. I've already done my own work, mate.
He loves a player spot, old Greg from 1987.
Mate, that was Steve Ball.
Listen, it was honestly. I've played with players there that I played with. Gordon Cowans, John DeWolf.
Was Gordon Cowans the nose?
Yeah,
Villa.
Aston Villa player. Yeah,
what a player.
Yeah, I remember him.
Great player. But like I said to you, I signed there. I think I signed for Wolves just after Graham Taylor had left, and Mark McGee had obviously taken over. Mark had gone to Leicester, done okay with Leicester, and then literally kind of Leicester hated him because he jumped ship because Wolves, Taylor went and Mark McGee got the job. And I obviously was his first signing. Vinny Samway signed on loan. Okay. And I signed permanently at that time. And I walked into the change room, obviously you back your own ability. You don't sort of look at who's there. But I sort of walked in and there was about 40 odd pros in there. Paul Birch, Gordon Cowans, John DeWolf, Jeff Thomas, the list, Tony Daly, Steve Froggatt.
Played with Robbie Keane as well. Was Robbie Keane there?
Later, Robbie came
through the ranks there, didn't he?
Yeah. But I'm walking into a dressing room and you're looking at all these guys that are in there. Don Goodman. There's a dressing room full of solid, experienced pros, and I'm looking and going, Jesus Christ, how are not getting promoted? How you got beat by Bolton the year before when they should have really? And sort of walked in there and there was 40 odd pros and it was just like, wow, this club is got to be able to get up out of this club. So struggling that season, obviously, avoided relegation, and then the season after was when we got into the playoff final, playoff semis, sorry, and unfortunately lost to Palace, one of my former clubs, in that one.
Yeah, because I was going to say, was there a lot of players in that Palace side that you played with at Palace or not?
Not as many then. It obviously gone a little bit. There was still a few left in there. I think Simon Rogers stayed around for a few bits. I think Gordon was there. Dougie Freedman came to Wolves after, so I knew Dougie. It all changed around quite a lot, really, at Palace, I think, quite quickly. Obviously, I left there in '94. And I think the playoff semis was 97-98 season. So it does turn around pretty quickly. But yeah, it was a strange one because we came down to Selhurst for the first leg. We're 2-1 down, and then we gave away a goal late on to go 3-1. Took them back to Wolves. Probably one of the best atmospheres I ever played in on a Tuesday night under the lights. And we got to 2-1, so we needed that extra goal to take it to extra time, but just couldn't get it. And then Palace obviously went on into the final, and I think they lost that year. I think, can't even remember now. Getting old. But yeah,
go on, Greg.
I know you've mentioned names, mate. I've got some. Brian Law. Is it Darren Ferguson as well that I saw?
Darren was there. Yeah.
I mean, I was just going to ask what he was like, because obviously, I mean, he made his way up through Man United and that, and then obviously got shipped out. But was he any good?
He's a good player, Darren. Yeah, really good player. Yeah, he's got a Premiership medal, which he likes to tell people every now and then. Yeah, no, he's a really good footballer, Darren. Good left foot, whatever else. Again, probably a bit similar to me. We weren't blessed with the greatest of pace, but he was neat, tidy on the ball and stuff like that. And we played together the first season and a bit, and then Darren obviously left and went off and then done all his stuff there. But he was always good with the guys there. Brian Law, there was a massive incident with a bus, but we won't talk about that one.
Feel free if you want to.
He drove the bus around Wolverhampton, didn't he?
Oh.
You know, we were talking off air beforehand about Welsh.
Yeah.
Oh, I told you, mate. I told you.
Yeah, and he may well have had one or two of those dodgy lemonades that they have, and he decided one day there was a bus parked outside the Wolverhampton bus station, and he decided to drive it around the ring road.
Oh shit!
He may have got arrested, but you'll have to Google it. I wasn't there then, but I know Brian, and he went born again Christian. Did Brian? Great lad.
Wow.
One of the only men I've ever seen head the ball off the floor by some foot. He fell over and tried to head the ball out of play and headed the ball by someone's foot.
Oh, John Serry.
That's a Phil Jones trait, that as well, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
And then obviously, like, to be honest, that team as well with Wolves, it's crazy that you just always were there or thereabouts within like the playoffs, but was always just on the fringes. Like, you even got to the FA Cup semi-final in the second year or third year there, FA Cup semi-final against Arsenal.
Yeah.
It just goes to show sort of the level that team was at. Was there a lot of pressure around like the club, knowing how talented the squad was? Did the fans feel that the side were underachieving, or what was the sort of vibe around the place?
Yeah, they did. It's talked about so many times whenever I go back, and I still play the odd Vets games from, and it's always mentioned that sort of era. Why? How come we never quite made it? You know, they look at the players we had. On our day we could beat anyone. Honestly can't answer that. If I could answer that question, I'd bottle it and sell it. It just key moments in seasons, just let ourselves down, have a bad week, lose a game, draw a game, get out of it. But we just couldn't get through it. There was a massive expectation at the time when Graham Taylor took over, and I think that weighed heavy at certain times on people. The supporters expected, or didn't expect, that's the wrong word. They anticipated Wolves being up and around there and to get up. They felt Wolves were a Premier League team basically, and it didn't quite happen. You know, we get close or be in the playoffs and then just falter out of it, or be in there and drop out of it, and it for whatever reason it didn't happen. Not for the want of trying, not that we'd sat in there we'd sit in many of an evening or whether it was afternoon going through what we could do, what was happening, what wasn't, and Can't answer it. You could ask. There was loads around that time, from Robbie Keane, as Matt's mentioned, through to everybody. Steve Ball. There's no rhyme or reason to why we did it.
Yeah. How good was Bully as well?
Bully's the best goal scorer I've ever seen.
Yeah,
Really?
he's like
Natural goal scorer.
legend up there, isn't he?
Honestly, natural goal scorer. He was. Obviously, I was lucky enough to play with Ian and people like that, but and Robbie, different. But as a natural goal scorer, I've probably never seen anything like it. He used to hate finishing on a Friday, not interested. Just didn't. It wasn't his thing. It wasn't. It was all false. Yeah, this is false. It's not real. And then you'd play on a Saturday, and the ball would just drop, and all of a sudden it'd drop over his head, and he'd smash it in the top corner. No thought about it, or he'd get it. Tap it in, you know. I don't care what division you play at. I mean, you know, he played it for England, I think, playing in the 2nd division at the time, or 3rd division.
Yeah.
He should have played more, shouldn't he, for England?
Probably, but again, it's difficult. But honestly, as a natural goal scorer, he was frightening. You sort of hit balls at times, and I got on really well with Steve, and I was lucky enough to, you know, I'd play passes that might get cut out and I've looked rubbish and everyone would cope me, but if it went through and we scored, I was the best thing since sliced bread. Yeah. But some of the stuff that he did, again, just natural goal scoring, just natural goal. Complete different to Robbie Keane. Robbie Keane was an artist. Robbie Keane was an absolute artist. He would tear people. Good footballer, clever, could fit. Just well, you don't do what he's done without being that. And he completely chalk and cheese in some respects. Bully was sort of hustle bustle, but a fantastic finisher.
Yeah, different class.
Right up there.
Go on, Greg.
Just a couple of bits, mate. From so you scored against QPR. Was that when was that? Was that in
free kick?
Was it not?
Not that you remember it, sorry.
Yeah, mate.
Was that the 2nd season?
I'm a free kick specialist in my own world.
I was just going to say, how did that feel?
Ginger tell you that. Mate. Don't worry about that. Go on, mate.
How did that feel, scoring against them? Like, obviously, after.
It's funny because I've always celebrated. I don't score against many of my teams, but it was kind of a bit of bittersweet, if I'm honest with you. The worst thing was, though, Dicho got a better goal than mine, so I was gutted. That was when Dicho hit that volley from about 40 yards. I don't know if you remember it, Danny Dicho.
Oh, no. Oh, bloody hell, yes, I do remember that goal.
Well, I'd scored a decent free kick, to be fair, and then the ball dropped to him and he scored one from 40 yards, so it made mine seem a bit rubbish.
He scored some goals, him, actually.
Yeah, he did.
Again, he was another one of the lads that I was there. We didn't even mention him. He was one of the guys that were there. Him and Kevin Gallen were there at the time at QPR. So, but yeah, it was nice to score against him. I never really had great games, if I'm honest with you, going back to Loftus Road. It's one of them funny grounds, tight, horrible. Always the game always. Every time I've ever played there, and it's certain places you play, it always seems so congested and just hustle bustle. I mean, Sellers Park's the same. Every time
it looks smaller than what it like. It's obviously a proper sized pitch, but it always just looks small, doesn't it?
It feels small as well. I've been there a few times as an away fan. It always feels small. I hate Loftus Road.
I've been there a few times. It's tiny, isn't it? It's like
like
that. Yeah.
It feels like that when you play. Sometimes it just feels like everywhere you go, like I've got a bit of space here, but you haven't.
Turn round, you're at the entrance.
No, I've got some fan on my shoulder. Get here. Yeah.
I'll always hate it there as well for that. In recent times, they've got that Moroccan fan in the crowd with his fucking rattle. He started supporting them when Adel Tarabt was there. Oh, mate, he is a pain in the arse, that fella in the crowd. All game long, it's like, oh, God, shut up.
Like you're at the World Cup.
Yeah. Even his own fans are turning around like, mate, give it a rest.
You also said you never got suspended, mate, but you did. You missed obviously that big game. What was that like? Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't ideal timing for me, was it? To be honest, we played away. We beat Leeds in the quarterfinals.
Oi, don't mention that.
Oh, yeah, you're not allowed to say that.
I say that. That we beat Leeds, who were the Premiership team at the time, at Ellen Road. Okay, I won't say that.
No, we'll keep that one quiet.
Right, we'll leave that one alone there. And then, obviously, we won't mention that again. And then got drawn, obviously, against Arsenal, Villa Park. And we were playing away at Ipswich. And we was having one. And we were getting the run around in midfield. So Bobby Petter, I don't know if you, again, left-footed fella.
Yeah, he was at Celtic.
Was he American?
Dutch fella, Bobby
Dutch.
Petter.
Dutch.
He's a DJ now. Bit of useless information.
Yeah. Anyway, so he was. They were calling him right. They were basically thinking. So anyway, I thought, but I've got to try and do something here. So I wellied him basically.
Welling him.
Yeah, the old fashioned. Have one of them. Maybe it might liven us up a little bit. Done that, didn't happen. Anyway, the next time I didn't. I just mistimed it very slightly. Got there as quick as I could, ref. Honestly, Gov. And I was sent off. And it's a long old walk back into the far corner at Pullman Road. So I've obviously gone all the way back into the corner, got sent off. We lost 2-0 at the time. Obviously, the boys are coming in. Sorry, lads. I didn't, sorry. Got sent off anyway. And then Mark McGee's come in and started tearing a few strips off people. And he's sort of tearing strips off people. He goes, and him over there, he doesn't even realise he's going to miss the semi-final. So I was like, oh, Jesus.
Did you not realise?
Nah, at the time you just do what you do, and he's sort of done that. And then the worst thing about that, he fined me 2 weeks' wages for getting sent off as well.
Oh no!
Got a double whammy at the time. So I was suspended for the semi-final, and then again, if you talk to a lot of Wolves fans, that is one of their biggest gripes about that time. We picked a team. Robbie Keane never started. Steve Ball never started. Against Arsenal, I think it was Christopher Ray scored the winner 1-0.
I remember that. Was that 95 or 96? 98. 98, sorry. 98. That's it. I remember that.
Yeah, Christopher Ray got a 1-0. Arsenal were way off it. They were poor that day, and he played Steve Claridge and somebody else up front, and he dropped Steve Ball and Robbie Keane, and everyone went mad.
I think I remember that so well because Christopher Ray scored fuck all goals for Arsenal. I think he scored about 5 goals, and that was one of them.
Yeah, you won it as well, didn't you?
Yeah. That's why I remember it.
Yeah. So it was just a strange one. Like I said, so you sort of, I'll go to Villa Park and sit up in the stands, which was fantastic.
Go on, Greg.
Just a few more players that I wanted to see. Julian Lescott he was quite young then. Adi Akinbaye. Now was the story true then? Did he have to train in front of an open goal then, or what?
He was good at Wolves, wasn't he?
No, he done well for us.
Yeah.
He done well for us. Yeah.
No, one was Ketsbayer.
Tamuri, good lad.
Was he mental or what?
Different planet.
He was the one who smashed the advertising hoardings when
he beating up Alessandro Pistoni for trying to stop him doing it. Yeah.
He was a different level. Not in the right world.
Was he just mental, was he?
Yeah, no, just not mental, just Tamuri, just weird. Lovely fella, if you get to him, but just do his own stuff. He was honestly one of the best 2-footed players I've ever played. Tamuri. Good, great footballer.
Was this before he was at Newcastle or after?
After.
I was going to say it's got to be after because I don't even remember him really being at Wolves, to be honest.
I don't know.
Season. He had 1 season there.
Yeah.
He scored the opening day of the season. He scored a free kick on the opening day of the season. But a really good footballer, but just a bit of a maverick, really. Just a maverick. Just that's the easiest way for me to describe him is that's what he is. But honestly, great footballer. I mean, I got on all right with Tamuri and whatever, but you'd see him train and you'd go to him, what foot do you actually, what's your better foot? And he went, well, it used to be me right, but I've worked so well on my left, it might be me left now. I'm not sure.
Wow.
Christ.
Fair play.
Yeah, but, he'd have that little chop. I don't know if you can remember it. He'd sort of send people for the old hot dog and chop them back. But yeah, just a bit of a maverick. I think he went on to manage Georgia or whatever at one point, didn't he? I think he managed the national team.
Wow.
That'd be fun on the sideline, wouldn't it? I'm sure he did. Greg, get your iPad on.
Terry's the man for that, mate.
I'll have a quick pictures.
Greg's got about 7 screens there. You just can't.
I'll just do my own work and then I'll just go off of that.
He's like a trader. You're everywhere.
Or Newsround.
I did like old Tamuri Ketsbayer though. Good player.
You had Kevin Muscat.
Muscat, yeah.
He was a bit of a dirty git, wasn't he?
Yeah.
I've got some names written down. I just ain't even asked yet.
Hans
Sabers, Keith Curl.
Keith Curl, yeah.
Ewan Roberts.
Yeah.
I remember Ewan Roberts.
Jason Roberts as well.
Jason came in for a little bit. He came in on trial, only for a couple. I know Jason, and he came in for a couple of weeks way back. Dougie Friedman, obviously Palace connection.
Yeah. David Connolly.
Yeah.
Right.
We had, like I said, I played well. So
Loads
lucky.
of names.
Loads and loads of players there. You know, Keith was a good player, fit boy. Obviously been at Wimbledon way back. Had a dodgy knee, but could that boy run? And a good captain at the time as well. There was lots of them. You know, like I said, you kind of forget, I think, until you sort of start bringing them up. I forget.
Yeah.
Probably because I'm old, but I just forget that the
That's why I always write them down, though, mate. Because even sometimes there's names there that I didn't even realise. Like I didn't even know Tony Daly played for Wolves.
Yeah. I snapped a tendon. I didn't snap it, but he kicked my foot to snap his tendon.
Oh wow!
Yeah, weren't my fault, honestly.
I had a quick look. So he did go into management, Ketchbuyer, and he did manage Georgia. He's managed some big clubs. He managed Olympiacos, Apoel, AEK Athens. He's managed some. Yeah.
Where did he come from before he came to English football?
He was at Tbilisi, then Anorthosis Famagusta, who he manages now.
Yeah.
And Athens. Athens.
He's been around, isn't he, the fella?
Yeah.
Door's a hot country.
That's why he went to Wolves.
It was warm in the Midlands, mate. You know that.
Wolves and Newcastle. We got it all wrong, didn't we?
Yeah, he must have been on the gloves and tights when he was there for sure.
And then obviously Mark McGee got the tin tack at Wolves, and his assistant Colin Lee took over. Was that strange? And did they fall out? Is that why Colin stayed on, or?
I thought it was. We all thought it was very strange at the time. It got a bit frosty between the pair of them, but there was a lot. There's again, I do a lot of stuff with Wolves for the charity stuff. There's one of a few teams, and there's a podcast done by Colin Lee that I listen to, and it kind of enlightened a lot. I didn't know a lot of what he was saying at the time. There was a lot of backfighting behind the scenes, a lot going on in the boardroom and everything else like that they were trying to do. And I think they did fall out, most definitely, but it wasn't as sort of cutthroat, as bad as everyone said at the time that Colin Lee had come in. But us as players at the time were like, oh, that's a bit weird. You know, he stabbed him in the back, and that's just a natural reaction as a player going, well, he's gone. He's his assistant. They've been at the last 3 clubs together, but he's still here. That's a bit strange.
That's what I thought, looking at it as well.
Yeah, as an outsider, you would do. You know, we're inside within that sort of bubble, looking at it going, really? Oh, okay, this is a bit strange. Obviously, I always got on all right with Colin. Yeah, coaching-wise, Mark was a man manager and a sort of bit like that. Colin was a very meticulous, good coach. He was the sort of one that would set the sessions up and do all that, and Mark would do the other
man.
Yeah, and that was sort of how it was. And Mark was a bit more of a man, and Mark would be the one that would win the game away and go, I'll see you Tuesday. With Colin would go, no, we got this planned and whatever, and that's kind of how he was. So we always like Mark better, but no, not really. Even though he nicked his golden boot out of his house, but that's another story. And he was sort of that, and then he came in, and it's like, that's a bit weird. I think I got injured. I think I was carrying injury and was injured again for a little bit, and then came back. And then me and him had a bit of a falling out about a little bit. I got back in the team again and got back into it, but it was a real strange atmosphere. Strange atmosphere, to say the least, at that time when he'd come back, sort of as the manager. And it was a sort of, it was almost a transitional period. Joe Lynn was coming through the younger lads. We'd signed Robert Taylor from Man City. He was constantly, he unfortunately was injured. And we sort of flitted around about mid-table, and then Colin left. John Wall took over a little bit.
Was that when Dave Jones came in?
John Wall took over for a tiny little bit thing, and then Dave Jones came in. Dave basically came in as the new manager, announced him, and then my contract was coming to the end of that season, and then myself and Dave didn't quite see eye to eye, and I left to go to.
I was going to say, you lasted 6 months with him there. It wasn't very long, was it?
No, my contract was coming to an end. I was out of contract at the end of the season. I've been there. I'm fortunate. I was club captain at Wolves at that time. Kevin Muscat was the team captain. I was club captain. So I'd been there some time. And in all fairness, we hadn't got promoted. Dave was coming in. and he decided that he was going to make a few changes. Obviously, that's just part and parcel of what you do at the time. We fell out on one or two little bits and pieces. I just felt I was sticking up for other people, maybe. I broke my toe. There was a couple of other players injured. I just felt he was treating, at the time, he was probably coming in to try and make a mark, and I felt he was treating a couple of people a bit. And so I had one or two things to say. I was inexperienced. I was club captain, so I had that ability possibly to have a little bit of a say. And then I never was going to play again. And then I left and went to Tranmere. But then, in all fairness, he got promoted. When I came back, I didn't have a club at the end of the season. When I left Tranmere, got messed about by an agent. I spoke to the club. Dave was fine, absolutely. Let me come in and train and keep ticking over. So it was good as gold. It's just one of those things that happens in football.
That's good of him.
Yeah, no, listen, honestly, I've got all respect for every single manager I ever played under. We fell out. I left. I phoned him back up and said, "Can I come back in and train?" He said, "Of course you can. No problem at all. Just to keep ticking over." It happened at the time. It's football, isn't it? It's what happens. It's the same in work sometimes. You don't always like everybody you work with sometimes. You have a fallout, you're big enough and ugly enough to get over it. And I've certainly, at the time, he was right. He broke the team up. He brought Alex Ray, Colin Cameron, Paul Ince.
And got successful and all, wasn't they?
Yeah, so he was right in what he was doing at the time. He just felt at the time that that's what he saw. So I went, I think Kevin Muscat went the year after and whatever else. So he done what he was meant to do.
At least he was honest with you. Like we've had a few pros on like recent weeks that have had various problems where managers haven't told them and they've just kept them in the dark a lot, and they'd rather just be pulled and say, "Look, we're going in a different direction." So at least like he's done that as well.
Yeah, listen, honesty is the best policy in anything, isn't it? I think in any walk of life, wherever you're doing, if it's not working or you fancy a change or they want to change or whatever it is, then you can suffer in silence. Like I said to you, we had our disagreements, we had our fallouts, and then he said, "Look, I'm moving forward. Your contract's coming up." I didn't agree with him, which is fine, and I left. And then when we've done that, and he allowed me, the end of the season come, and I didn't have a club to go to, but I needed to keep training and keep ticking over and keep, obviously, with the injuries that I had previously, keep up my rehab stuff as well. He was absolutely fine and let me come into the club and do what I needed to do. So it was great.
That's good, mate. And then obviously you said you went out on loan to Tranmere before leaving for Port Vale. Was John Aldridge the manager?
No, John had gone. It was Ray Mathias and Kevin Sheedy, the absolute legend of a left foot, Kevin Sheedy.
We had his nephew on last week, Gareth Davies.
Yeah, that's right. He is, isn't he?
Yeah. His cousin. Sorry, his cousin.
Yeah, his cousin.
I know they're related somewhere along the line, aren't they? Yeah. No, basically, everyone says loan. I left. Basically, my contract was terminated at Wolves, and I signed for Tranmere till the end of the season.
Oh, so it's like a short term.
Yeah, it was a short term thing. Deadline day, one of those sort of last minute type things. Dug me heels in, said I'm not leaving. Basically, a geezer called Jez Moxey was an absolute nugget. The commercial director who came in and listen, go on the forums. There's Jez Moxey. Everyone thinks he's a nugget. It wasn't just me. And I dug my heels in and said, I'm not going unless we had sort out some one or two financial issues that you owe me some money. And so I'd done 6 years at Wolves, but I felt that particular time treat me with the respect that I deserve. So we had a little bit of a ding dong. I then went, "No problem, mate. I'll see you. I'll stay here. You've got to pay me till July." So I got back in my car to go home. By the time 5 minutes down the road, he decided to agree to pay me what he owed me, basically. So, yeah, we terminated the contract about 4:45. I signed for Tranmere. So deadline day was like 5 o'clock, and that deadline day, so about 4:45, I signed for Tranmere and went and signed for them. Great, loved it. Travelled from Wolverhampton to Tranmere. Great guys there again. Jason Kumas.
Was he there?
Yeah, Jason.
That's where he made his name, wasn't it? Tranmere.
Yes, it was. Yeah, he made his name through there. Big Dave Challoner, we talked about prior to the show. Wayne Allison. Oh God, come on, Greg, where are you, mate? With your name, Jesus.
On Tranmere, it's one of the only ones I didn't really look at.
Greg.
Yeah, Steve Yates, people like that have been at QPR with me. So I went there. They were bottom of the league at the time. 10 games to go, I think it was. Didn't stay up, but I really enjoyed it. I had a great time up there. played every game, just got back into the swing of playing football again, which is what I wanted to do. And then they got relegated. I really wanted to stay in the Championship. I think I was 30 there at the time, and I wanted to stay in the Championship. And then had an agent, the usual rubbish, got messed around loads, Tranmere offered me a contract, which I said hold fire on. I won't bore you with all the intimate details. So basically I ended up, come the pre-season, I had no football club. So I had nowhere. So I've gone from club captain at Wolves to within, like I say, it was March. So within 4 months, I had no football club, was basically unemployed. So,
Real.
yeah, it did. Mad, seems mad, doesn't it? And again, it was all. I'm not going to just completely. The agent was an absolute. I won't swear because I don't do that.
You can swear.
No, it basically just lied. I'd have signed for Tranmere if I'd have known what had happened. If I'd have hindsight being a wonderful thing, I'd have signed for Tranmere. No, I'd have a football club for the next 3 years, which is what they offered me. I didn't do that. I ended up no club. I ended up going to. I travelled to Scotland. Played for St Johnstone. I went to Huddersfield. I went for Huddersfield for 1 day, told Lou McCarvey he was a prick and walked out.
Good scammer.
It's worst training I've ever known. Anyway, went to 1 or 2 places. We won't go into them. And then, so I was basically doing that. And then I was in the car going to Halifax to play for a guy called Tony Parks. And just to play football. I was literally in the car, got on the M6, driving to go towards Halifax, and a friend of mine who's now an agent, Bobby Barry, who I do the academy stuff with, a guy called Mike Drew, I've known for years as an agent. He phoned me up because I'd already gone out to him and said, look, if you know anyone, I need a club, I need to play football. He phoned me up and said, listen, I've just spoken to Brian Horton at Port Vale. Would you go in there? I went, yeah, it's 30 minutes from Wolverhampton. Of course I'll go in there. So I literally phoned Tony Parks up. I pulled up at Knutsford Station and the M6, phoned Tony Parks up, said, look, Tony, thanks for the offer. I was going to come up and play, but Port Vale's closer to me. I'm going in there to train today, see what happens. He was good as gold, fine. I literally turned the car back around, drove back into Port Vale, went back in, saw Brian Horton. He went, listen, the first team's not in. Go and train out the back there. Let's have a look, see what's happening. And I'll have a chat with you afterwards, see what's going on. So I, lucky, with the Wolves bits and whatever else, I kept myself in decent shape for me anyway. I was never going to eat pace. And trained with the team that was out there. The session finished. He said, right, have a warm down. Sort of a bit stern with me. And I'm looking down, have I done something wrong? And he went, come and see me in the office. I'm thinking, I haven't done nothing wrong. I don't think I kicked anyone. I might have moaned a bit, but I can't remember kicking anyone. It was important anyway. And just sort of went back in. He got changed, whatever else. Didn't know where I was going. Someone pointed me in the right direction, the manager's office. Sort of knocked on the door, went in, he went, right, sit down. So I said, yeah, all right. He said, so come on in, tell me the story. And I went, well, I haven't got a story really to tell. What is it? Sort of, I don't know what it was. He just went, well, you've been at here and you've come there. Why have you not got a football club? You must have done something wrong.
You think you was a bad egg?
Yeah. And I went, listen, phone down Joe Jones now if you want to phone it. It's nothing to do with that. Told him that. And he went, okay, what do you want to do? I went, well, I want to play football. So he literally went upstairs, come back down and said, listen, I can sign you for a month for a minute because that's all I've got. You all right with that? I went, yeah, fine. And that was it. There was no negotiation, no. I just literally went, yeah, fine. So I signed the contract for a month. And he went, you're not playing in reserves Thursday, you're playing Saturday. That was it.
Brilliant. That'll do.
What happened after the month expired? Did you stay there? Or?
That's when Gillingham came in, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's when, yeah. So I signed there for the month. Gillingham had gone to a championship. They were one of the clubs in the summer. Cut a long story short with the agent. There was Stan at Burnley. Gillingham was another club that had been in the championship. These people were interested, but nothing had materialised. So anyway, it all got to it. Then people get their squad set and it's done. So I played the month at Port Vale, and Andy Hessenthaler was at Gillingham. And I've now engaged with another couple of agents, said, listen, if you get me a club, a longer term deal, whatever it is, you'll get your fee paid for you, sort of thing. And Andy Hessenthaler showed an interest at Gillingham. They was in the championship. Brian Horton sort of said, I can give you maybe to the end of the year. They offered me 2 years. So for me, it's, at my age, it's 2 years. It's kind of back home to where I was sort of closer to me. Yeah. And I managed to go down and sign for Gillingham. Literally walked into Brian Horton, shook his hand, said, listen, thanks ever so much for everything you've done for me. I'll never forget what you've done. Because in all fairness to him, that was, if I didn't get that, that was probably me done. Yeah. And he was absolutely fine. He said, listen, good luck to you. Thanks very much for the 8 games and all the best.
Fair enough. During your time actually at Gillingham, I'm going to steal Greg's thunder here on a couple of players. There was a few names that stood out for me. A young kid at the time, J. Lloyd Samuel, was there, and Marlon King as well.
Yeah, big Marlon.
But there's one who's one of my heroes that you played with there, is Rodney Wallace.
Rod. Yeah, great guy.
What was he like?
Rod, great player, Rod.
Yeah.
I played against the brothers down at Southampton when I was a kid.
Ray as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, there was Ray, Danny, and Rod.
Danny, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah, because Danny obviously unfortunately got MS, I think Danny has, or something. So when Rod signed, we signed Rod and Tommy Johnston at Gillingham the second year I was there. I snapped my Achilles the second year, but he was a really, really good player. I was a little bit gutted because I didn't play much that season. I snapped my Achilles I don't think it was the first game of the season. It was a couple of games in, and I missed from August through to I don't think I came back till March. So that was my second season. The first season I'd signed there in September and played all the way through to the end of the season, and it went really well. That was the first season in the Championship, I think, for Gillingham. We finished 10th. Paul Shaw, Iffy Anura.
Good return.
Yeah, and in the second season we finished about the same place again, but I'd only played a few games. Not as many games, I should say, in that second season, obviously, because being injured. But Rod was a really good player, really good player. Obviously, you'd be the Leeds fan. I can't mention. Remember Dylan Kearse? He's my mate. He's the same. Way back in the era when you won the Premier League. It's a long time ago now, isn't it?
Yes, it is. It was 92.
Exactly. Yeah. So
it was the year before it became the Premier League, wasn't it? It was the old First Division.
Yeah. So he was there, and it was kind of crazy, really, because like little club in Kent, Gillingham, we were probably getting 8,000 to 10,000. Finished 10th in the Championship, and in the second season finished the same again. Had a couple of half-decent cup runs. We played against the mighty Arsenal. We were 2-2 with the mighty Arsenal. Matt, I'll have you know, at Highbury. And I'll tell you a story about that in a minute. It's a good one.
All over.
Remember that one, Matt?
No, I can't say I do, to be honest.
Well, basically, Arsenal beat us 5-2. It would have been 2001, potentially. 2001.
Some team then, mate. Would that have been with like Petit and Vieira and Overmars and that?
That would have been that era.
Vieira, Pires, Henri, Lauren, Sol Campbell.
Shit team, then.
Yeah, rubbish. Absolutely rubbish team.
Oh dear.
But we drew them in the cup, and obviously for us it was like brilliant. We're going to play Arsenal in the cup. So we went to Highbury. We were doing well at the time, and we managed to sneak. We were 2-2 at the time. Marlon King had scored and Ty Gooden. Can't remember who scored for Arsenal. I think Will Tord and somebody else might have scored. And anyway, so at that time, that was probably one of the best team spirits I've ever had. We was all of a similar age, all experienced, good, honest pros with some good young guys coming through that needed a bit of a slap in the young, the old every now and then. And we were playing that game, and then we all started laughing. And the referee, I can't think it was at the time, looked at us. He went, "What's up with you lot?" We went, "It's all right." He went, "I said, we got half a chance. They're bringing the subs on." Anyway, he's had a look across, and we're looking over. We're all giggling. They're bringing in Pires and Henri on. After about 60 minutes. So we're laughing. They're both World Cup winners, and we're laughing at the ref, and he's going, "What are you lot laughing at?" We're laughing at Pires and Henri. We got half a chance. They went from 2-2, and in all fairness, they were one of the best sides I played against. They went from probably second gear at the time they were playing against us to like fourth for a couple of minutes, and we ended up 5-2.
Yeah, I've just Googled it. I'm just looking at it right now.
Was it 2001, 2002?
Yeah, that's exactly when it was. Yeah, Will Tord was a scorer, and yeah, Iffy Anura and Gayapua.
Yeah.
That was some Arsenal team. That must be a sickener though.
I can't remember it. I can't even picture it, which is unusual.
Yeah, it's just sickener that, innit? You see Pires and Henri coming on.
Oh, listen, O'Connor was playing. There's another one, because I remember they said to me, he's going to throw it down the line, stand in front of me. I'm like, what's the point? I can't even jump. I need a step ladder to get anywhere near him. How am I going to stop him flicking it on? It's pointless.
He's huge, wasn't he?
He was massive. But yeah, they were a proper side. I played against them for Wolves in the cup as well at that. But that period, they were immense.
Yeah.
Immense. They were
different.
I mean, Thierry Henry, people sort of look at him and go, he was fantastic, but he was a big guy.
Yeah.
He was 6'2" and could run. You know, they were that team at the time. I didn't play against that Man United team at that sort of era. I never had the opportunity to play against that team of that era, but that Arsenal team was some team.
Yeah, I mean, you could go around the whole team and say it probably was amazing, but like the spine of the team, Vieira just. Watched some clips of Vieira the other day. Just the way he made it look so effortless. Like he's such a massive bloke, but the ball control, the close control he had for a big bloke. And obviously, he's playing in Henry. I mean, if he's running off the shoulder, like no one's going to catch him.
No, you couldn't catch him.
He knows we battered them at Highbury a few.
All right, mate. Every fucking time. Henry's, mate, I fucking can't stand Thierry Henry. He scored every time he looked at Leeds United, he scored a fucking goal. You know what I mean? Even when he was 58 years old and signed back for you on short term. Yeah, I went to that game, mate, at the Emirates, and he come on as a sub, and all the Leeds fans looked at each other and was like, surely not.
And he did.
0-0, and he fucking comes on the classic curl it into the far corner.
Yeah.
Imagine playing against your open Leeds team now. That'd be like carnage, wouldn't it?
Oh, God, yeah. He'd score about 12.
The way we defend sometimes, it wouldn't be 0-0 that game, would it? Jesus.
It'd be 12-6, wouldn't it?
Yeah,
12-6 that game.
I was about to say it'd be something stupid.
That would be some game, to be fair.
It'd be that team would be a great game, wouldn't it?
It would, yeah.
Absolutely.
And then, obviously, after your time at Gills, you end up moving on and going back with Colin Lee, Walsall.
Yeah, another fallout of a chairman at Gillingham. Recurring theme, that, isn't it?
Common denominator.
Isn't it?
Wasn't me.
Shaggy.
Weren't me, Gov. Honestly.
Your name is Shaggy, Ozzy.
I was down by the pool. I was down by the pool, mate. Weren't me. I'm actually excited at Gillingham, and then Colin Lee phoned me at Walsall, kind of said what he was going to do, which Gillingham hadn't inspired me that we're going to do stuff. Colin Lee was like, listen, I've got this project. I know you're back down in London, but I know it's Wolverhampton. You've lived up here before, but I'm going to make this signing, this signing, this signing. And I went, yeah, of course you are. So, in fairness to him, yeah, no, you get all this. That, you know, it's one of, if you're trying to sell a football club to someone to come to do it. You know, I'm 30. What was I then? 32, maybe 31. So I'm now moving back from where I've moved home to go back to the Midlands. So I've got a youngish family. You know, we've moved back home. All those things start coming into play. But one of the sort of factors was what he was going to do with the team, who he was talking about signing. And obviously for me, I'm now thinking about what I'm going to do after football in regards to playing. So Colin, for me, was always a fantastic coach. So I'm now starting to think maybe there's an opportunity for me to start learning off this guy. I'd already started my badges. So I'm starting looking at the bigger picture. Went up there, signed for him, and he did exactly what he said. We signed Paul Merson.
How good was Merce? Because even that, he was at the back end of his career. I remember him tearing it up with Walsall.
Honestly, I've played with so many players along the line. He's honestly right at the top of it. And I mean right at the top of it. As a footballer with no left foot, phenomenal.
He's the best outside of the foot passer of a ball, shot of the ball I've ever seen.
Yeah, I thought I was all right. But honestly, that's just me bigging myself up, yeah. But honestly, as a footballer,
you're allowed to do that. That's what you're here for.
You was all right. You was all right, so.
Yeah, but honestly, I think it was the season before he got Portsmouth promoted, and we was at Gills at the time, and it was like, this is what he does. He will not go back over the halfway line, but if you leave him, he will rip us to shreds. And when he signed for Walsall, and Mercer's got his demons. We all know that. We don't need to talk about that stuff. And obviously, I ended up assisting him and whatever else, and I got on great with him from the first moment. For the first moment he got there, one, because he liked me as a person, and we took the piss, but also because he knew I could play a little bit as well. But he is honestly one of the best players I've played with.
Different club. Even now, I don't know if you've seen him. Even when they've done that Harry's Heroes thing, he can still fucking play.
Yeah. You never lose it, do you?
Yeah.
Honestly,
pace and fit.
Yeah, exactly that, Matt. Exactly that. But what I'm saying to you, even then, it was he has one. There's no middle ground with Merce. It's one or the other, and and that's an unfortunate thing. You know, I think again, this is all putting me in today's society now, and you've got a player that will be frightening. That the era that we came out of, it was a slightly different mentality about what we had. Arsene Wenger probably saved him, because he would have probably been burnt out by whenever he was. But just as a footballer, I mean, the first 2 goals he scored on the opening day of the season at Walsall. This is the new project, West Brom, local club, little old Walsall, and we beat West Brom. And I mean, spanked West Brom. And he scored 2 of the best goals, debut goals you'll ever see. If you Google that game, I think that would have been 2003, 2004.
I'll have to dig them out.
Yeah, honestly, he was frightening. Throw his toys out the pram, say training was shit and God knows what, and hated this and whatever else and whatever it was. But as a footballer, phenomenal. And that first part of the season, I'm just trying to think what we were. Colin Lee was the manager. I think we were 5th or 6th, Walsall, on Boxing Day. We beat Cardiff away. And then a guy called Paul Bracewell came in not long after, and it just went to pot. Merson kind of went a little bit. We had the midfield was basically Vinny Samways, myself, Steve Carica, and Paul Merson.
Bloody hell!
Yeah, and that was the
midfield as well, wasn't he? That Carica.
Yeah, good player. Yeah, literally, he was Merson coming in. He was frightening for that bit, and then as we all know, he has his demons, and then he sort of went off the rails a little bit. I think he ended up back in rehab and then come back.
When he come back, is that when because he took over, didn't he, as manager?
Yeah, Colin Lee went. So we went from, I think it was 5th or 6th, I can't remember exactly, and we got relegated that season.
Christ.
And Colin left about 4 games before the end, and then Merce took over, and I helped him out a little bit at that end.
So you was assistant to him, weren't you?
Just helping him out. Yeah, 4 games left, ticking over. And then the next season, he took over, and I went in as coach with him. But it wasn't. It was probably too early for me. I still wanted to play, and there was too much in it.